Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously jam-packed 24 hours of global news from July 19th, 2026. We're talking about a day where historic, record-shattering sports victories collided right up against rapidly escalating international conflicts. There is a whole lot to unpack here, so let's just jump right in. Here's our roadmap for today. We're kicking things off with triumphs under a haze. Then we'll move into the latest escalation in the Middle East. Check in on the Russia-Ukraine front, look at some critical global flashpoints and emergencies, and finally wrap up with disasters and democracy. All right, Section 1, triumphs under a haze. We're starting off with a pretty surreal contrast. Down in New Jersey at MetLife Stadium, fans were celebrating a monumental victory for Spain over the defending champions Argentina. But get this, at the exact same time, a massive blanket of thick smoke drifting south from Canadian wildfires was completely engulfing the eastern seaboard. It literally drove the air quality index in major cities like New York, D.C., and Toronto to become the most polluted in the entire world, right as the opening whistle blew. But before that smoke even had a chance to clear, the Spanish national team went ahead and made absolute history. They took down Argentina 1-0 in an absolute grinder of an extra-time match. Ferran Torres finally broke through with a goal in the 106th minute, and Captain Rodri walked away with the golden ball. But here is the real kicker. With this win, Spain became the very first nation ever to hold both the men's and women's World Cup titles at the exact same time. Just an unprecedented moment in international football. And speaking of shattered records, 3 minutes and 42.66 seconds. That's the number. Over in London, at the Diamond League, Great Britain's own Josh Kerr clocked that unbelievable time to absolutely smash the men's mile world record. To give you some context on just how huge this is, he finally beat Hicham El Guerrouj's legendary record, a record that had sat completely untouched for 27 years. Incredible. Moving on to Section 2, escalation in the Middle East. 17. Unfortunately, this is a pretty grim milestone. U.S. Central Command confirmed that total American military fatalities in the ongoing U.S.-Iran conflict have now hit 17. The most recent casualty happened when a service member was killed during a controlled detonation of a downed Iranian drone up in northern Iraq. It's a stark reminder of the persistent lethal risks that forces are facing out there right now. And the footprint of this conflict just keeps expanding. The Kurdistan Freedom Party recently reported that an Iranian drone strike targeted a camp near Erbil over in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. That strike ended up wounding 8 Iranian Kurdish rebels. It's a highly volatile situation. Now, this sequence perfectly highlights the sheer complexity of modern warfare. Just think about how these multinational defense layers are working in real time. First, you have an Iranian missile intercepted mid-flight by an Aegis-equipped naval vessel. Then, the fragments from that mid-air collision start falling over the city of Aqaba in Jordan. And almost instantly, the Israeli military deploys its Iron Dome system to shoot down and clear out that remaining falling debris. You've got 3 different nations and multiple layers of high-end tech, all reacting in mere seconds. Okay, let's pivot to Section 3, the Russia-Ukraine front. July 19th brought some intensely destructive, multi-domain strikes from both sides of this war. Russian forces leveled heavy attacks on Kyiv's civilian and air defense infrastructure, which tragically left 6 people dead. Out at sea, a Russian missile actually struck a cargo ship carrying corn off the coast of Odessa. 5 crew members were killed and another 5 are missing. But Ukraine hit back hard at Russian logistics. They launched a wave of drone strikes, hitting 3 oil depots in Russia's Stavropol region, plus 3 Russian oil tankers in the Black Sea. That counterstrike successfully halted operations at some major Russian loading sites. To really grasp the massive scale of that Russian offensive directed at the Ukrainian capital, get this. In just one night, 41 missiles and 125 drones were launched, heavily concentrated right on Kyiv. Beyond the devastating loss of life, these swarming tactics are doing exactly what they're designed to do. They're actively exposing the persistent vulnerabilities in Ukraine's current air defense supplies by essentially trying to overwhelm the grid. Let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, global flashpoints and emergencies. Right now, we're tracking 3 totally distinct yet devastating crises that really highlight this growing sense of global destabilization. First up, in northern Mali, roughly 50 Malian soldiers were killed in a brutal ambush by Tuareg rebels and al-Qaeda-linked militants. Second, over in Syria, the toll is just staggering. 530 people dead, including 76 civilians, in intense clashes between the post-Assad Syrian army and the Syrian Democratic Forces. And then we have a major shift in global health. Canada has officially shut its doors to any foreign nationals who have been to the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the last 21 days, all in response to a rapidly worsening Ebola epidemic. Finally, Section 5, Disasters and Democracy. It's been a day of real extremes. While emergency crews down in South America are navigating some absolute tragedies, citizens elsewhere are heading to the ballot box. In Peru, a magnitude 5.5 earthquake struck near Pampanga. It caused severe structural damage, tragically killing at least 6 people and injuring 21. At the same time in Guyana, there is a massive, desperate search and rescue operation underway. A passenger ferry completely capsized near the Pomeroon River. Miraculously, 67 people were pulled to safety, but a heartbreaking 66 others are still unaccounted for. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic in São Tomé and Príncipe, the democratic process marched on. Citizens there were busy casting their votes, with incumbent President Carlos Villanova seeking a second term. When you step back and look at this incredible juxtaposition, all happening on exactly the same day, it's pretty wild, right? You've got the absolute peak of human athletic achievement happening under toxic wildfire smoke, multinational defense systems lighting up the Middle Eastern sky, and profound, heartbreaking tragedies unfolding on land and at sea. It paints a picture of a world that's highly volatile, but deeply interconnected. You can feel the pressure points everywhere. So the question I want to leave you with is this. As we watch these localized crises play out, from the Ebola outbreak in the DRC to the drone strikes in the Black Sea, how are these flashpoints going to compound and shape our world for the rest of 2026? Think about that for a bit. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep asking questions.